Greetings everyone. Hey, thank you for joining me. This is the July 2021 Collective Global Predictions video. So we've got through June. It was a bit of a wild ride in many ways. I think too, with that puzzle card turning up, there's still something possibly unseen or unconnected that we're not fully aware of or haven't grasped the concepts of it fully yet. I think it's emerging. Often that's what I feel with the puzzle card when it comes out, that it's an emerging change or conundrum or connection, and it takes time for these things to evolve and for us to actually understand them. The other thing too, the destruction and the death card came out together, and the very sad building collapse in Florida, the Champlain buildings. As of today, the 30th of June, they've only found 11 of the residents of the buildings. So that's a really sad event to have occurred, especially for all the innocent people living in there, putting their faith and trust in the engineers and such like. So anyhow, blessings to all of those people involved and to all of the relatives. Anyhow, with that, we'll move into the July reading. We will start first with this tarot deck here, and we will see what's in store. I'll move that one aside. I'll just pull this back a little bit. So globally, collective earth consciousness, human conscious, psychic awareness. What is in store for us in July 2021 as we move into the second half of this year? The shadows are falling long, of course, because it's deep winter here in New Zealand, and the afternoon sun does cast a lot of shadows on my desk. It makes me feel a little bit seasick looking at them. They're moving so much. Seasick. Okay. This is for July 2021. These are taking a long time to shuffle. Whoa. That's two big cards, Death and the Wheel of Fortune. I might just take one more, but two big major arcana cards and two powerful ones at that. This is one more for July. What is in store? It's going to be this one here. The Six of Pentacles, a little more forgiving, possibly, in many ways. This is the cycle of give and take in life. It's the perpetual understanding that everything is constantly evolving and moving within the cycles of evolution. And in essence, that's exactly what this wheel is. It's the cycle of evolution and things constantly moving. And death is the ending of a cycle and moving into a new something, a new paradigm, a new awareness, a new understanding, a new concept, a new earth. There's a lot of depth because we have these two major arcana cards, and they're both very big players. But if you were just reading traditionally for a tarot reading, this always signifies new beginnings, and that an old cycle of something is coming to an end. I mean, technically, especially on this deck, he is the Grim Reaper. And so the Grim Reaper can also mean death, as in possibly mass deaths again. I also see in the background this really red-looking sun rising up out of the horizon here. And that makes me think of, unfortunately, maybe communist countries or Asian countries for some reason. I know lately North Korea has been in the news a bit because of their leader Kim Jong-un losing weight, and they're all saying it's because everyone else is starving and it represents their starving. I think he's probably had a stomach stapling operation or something, because I don't think he would starve even if the citizens are. There may be something referring to death of a situation or an economy or a political regime or something that goes through those energy fields, and it could be to do with Asia, some of them. It could be the land of the rising sun, which I think is Japan. I hope not. They have the Olympics coming up, I think, that start in July and August as well. If we move to the Wheel of Fortune, this is a much more provident type card. The Death card often has learnings or lessons or a period of heaviness that precedes its evolution into the next phase of wherever it is we're headed. But the Wheel of Fortune is much more about the slow turning natural evolution and change of events that aren't necessarily bad, they're just part of evolving and understanding and growing and gaining awareness. And these two are seated here on this turning wheel, and they're in a very merry spirits. They're drinking, they're celebrating, they're a king and a queen too by the look of them. So does this represent something to do with monarchy? And that makes me go naturally, I guess, to the English monarchy system. Is there a Wheel of Fortune evolution turning in the pictures for them? Well, we know Prince Philip passed away in April, I think it was, perhaps. And there are a lot of stories evolving around the royal family at the moment, and there's tensions between the brothers, the wives, siblings. So is there something in there about the Wheel of Fortune evolving and moving and turning over? Is there a change on the books? But theoretically, the only way a king could come about is if the queen abdicated or passed away. So I'm not sure that that's exactly what the meaning is, but it could be in reference to Harry and Meghan, for instance. There's a lot of changes and things going on there, and I think they are working through issues at their own personal level, which coincide with or work along with the whole monarchy as well. This also does look like a wheel, and I think it looks a little bit like a boat wheel. And I mentioned in the very beginning the shadows on the back of my wall were making me feel a little bit seasick. So what is this message about? Boats again, or ships, or sea movement of some type? We might see that later in the Psi cards when they're dealt. This card is much more provident and prosperous, although this one is as well in the long run. It's not a quick acting card. It takes a long time for the cycles to move and to perhaps show that movement up. The Six of Pentacles is giving, so this could be a period of moving into giving. It could also represent that there is a lot of need on the planet. So what is the need? Is it money? Is it food? Is it love? Is it understanding? Is it growth? Is it learning? That card represents both of those. I do see the scales that the man is holding, and they seem to be in quite good balance as well. There are two hands out waiting for the money to be given. So could this mean that money comes into balance in July, or there's some sort of understanding of it, or it gains a credibility in some way? Or are we again talking about the need for handouts for money, or does money take a bit of a dive? So with these three cards alone, there's not enough information here to make an assessment on, not just by looking at them per se. So we'll move them up to there, and I will then start to shuffle the Psi cards as well. So this is for July 2021. What is in store for us? Friendship, which in many ways this is friendship. These are the sort of things you do when you have friends in life. You give, or you support, or you nurture, and that friendship card is also insinuating the same thing. However, there is a hand on the left hand side of that card which you probably can't see at this stage, meaning something comes in from out of the blue and puts a little bit of a spanner in the works. So this is for July 2021. The Peace card, Liberation. Oh, there's one hiding under there. The Liar. Gee, the Liar has not been out in many, many years. Literally, I can't think when the Liar last came out. The Body. It's an interesting bunch. The Cave. The Beauty. The Beauty resonates with me very much with that Wheel of Fortune and the King and Queen picture on it. the libido hasn't been out for a while either. I may just pull one more, even though it's possibly more than I would normally pull. This is the final card for July 2021. There's a few new players in here: the body, the liar, the libido. I was about to pull this one that's sitting in the top of the deck like that, so I think we'll go for two: the Sun and the Mother. Let's put these all out so we can see them a little bit better. We talked briefly about the Friendship card, and I said that it's as if there's coherence and harmony in a group, but someone comes in and puts some sort of news or offer that turns out to not be quite so good. It causes discombobulation or throws things asunder. I also see these barrels up here, and I often think that they look like explosives, you know, like dynamite. So sometimes this can reference explosions that take place, and the explosions can involve people. If we come to the Peace card, there's a couple of things in here that are quite interesting to look at. I'll pull this in a little bit closer. There are rays of light coming from this church and into here, shining on this beautiful mandala. The rays of light I often consider to be associated with the sun shining, and we received the card the Sun. Now the Sun can reference solar activities, and we've just moved into a new solar phase, solar cycle 25. When we start to receive more activity from the Sun in terms of coronal mass ejections and other perturbations that head out either into space or towards us, it creates anomalies that can occur within the magnetic harmony field that we resonate at, animals resonate with, and so does Gaia. So this can create earthquakes, it can create intense storms, whether they be electrical storms or massive cyclones or, you know, big rainstorms. It can also create or help to create earthquakes as well because of the magnetic disruptions. So the Sun may play a role this month in July in showing some unusual behaviour. It can also mean intense heat, and this card in particular looks very, very hot. That Sun couldn't really be any hotter. There's the Sun right now. Couldn't be any hotter if it tried. It's literally searing the earth as it shines down. So there could be some intense heat waves in July, and I think there are parts of Canada that have just had their hottest day ever. This can also affect things like crops, so there may be crop shortages or crop damages around. And I also see a lot of children here, and children can be referenced in this month of July, so things that happen to children, not in a good way. And the Mother card is here as well, and she also has children referenced quite highly. Now in this Mother card, it really is not a pleasant card to look at in terms of they all look sickly. The mother looks ill, the children look miserable and not particularly well either. So this makes us think, is there something where people will be going through something unwell? And does it perhaps infer the Body card, which in my mind has always related to things such as damage to the surface of the skin, for one, because the body in this picture has no skin. So it's like the skin has gone missing, and things that can cause that are burns or crushings and things like that. So there could be burns, and they could be from explosions or fires or mishaps or misadventures. And it could be more than one individual. In fact, normally when the body comes out, it means it's affecting a lot of people at any one given time. The other thing that the body usually references is the internal workings of our body, and that would implicate things such as your blood, organs, which really go to viruses, right? So does the virus play a role in July? Does it re-emerge? Is there a new strain, or does this current Delta strain, I think it might be Delta 2 now, does it take off again? Or does it show us, or are we finding out more information about the damage that can be caused to the body through things such as this virus? Now, the body card can mean sometimes that there are new health modalities coming that can be very, very beneficial to us. And these could be things, not necessarily a cure for anything in particular, but heading in that direction. So new concepts for helping to save lives around things, for instance, and I'm not suggesting this, but possibly, for instance, things like malaria or smallpox or measles or anything along those lines. There may even be some positive news in terms of information around helping out with the virus. Maybe they find out that there's another vaccine that could work for the Delta, or maybe they find that the original vaccine is in fact working quite well. So there's many different implications, obviously, for each card that comes out. But I'm putting the body with the death, and I said earlier I felt it was the Grim Reaper, and there could be children involved or families in particular. So I'm wondering if I'm picking up the energy at the moment of the Champlain Towers in Florida, and do we, because those people have been crushed, they have suffered huge damage to them. So that's a possibility that it could be referencing that event that has taken place, because it is still an ongoing event as we move into July. It could be referencing that there is another possible event. I'd hate to think there was another one like that, but there could be another one in the air for July. So there's a lot that seem to be talking to each other. Coming back to the piece, we talked about the sun and the heat waves, really hot, solar cycles, but there's also this shining onto this mandala. Now, this will only mean something to those of you who have looked into the Mandela effect, which is a little bit of a conundrum about time and portals, if you like, and are there other dimensions that we could be moving through. So when this piece card comes out, and with the sun double amplifying it, there's a possibility that maybe Mandela effects are evident again in the month of July, and some of them might be quite notable one way or another. So if you haven't looked into Mandela effects, you could Google it and get yourself interested, because that's a rabbit hole all of its own, believe me. So if we put these back down again, we come to liberation. Liberation, sitting next to the cave and the libido, is a little bit scary, in as much that liberation often means running from something in a hurry and getting out of a closed door scenario. There's people in the background that are two people on a horse going over a very fast flowing river, and there's this brown snake down here on the ground. So sometimes this card can reference Australia, and it can reference things like massive storms that create inland carnage as the storms cross over mountain ranges and over land, bringing heavy rain that eventually goes out to sea, but along the way it floods things, and sometimes small villages, creating damage to buildings and roads and infrastructure and people's lives. And sometimes it does reference Australia, but it doesn't just have to be Australia. This can be anyone running from something, and often it does seem to be weather related, but clearly it could be other things that they're running from as well. Information maybe, or situations, or political tensions, things along those lines. But the cave down here also shows someone hiding, perhaps because they left it too long to run, and they are stuck in this cave as if to say, oh God, help me, I can't deal with this, I'm frightened, I'm alone, I'm scared, I'm stuck. So this can be stuck in something, or stuck under something, again, such as the towers that have collapsed. So feeling crushed, there's a degree of feeling crushed or stuck and this could be even referencing mines, or stuck underground, or stuck in something like a building, or stuck on a boat, or stuck in a storm. So the cave can also reference bad weather and this hiding, the need to hunker down, and these can be massive storms. And because it's sitting there with the liberation in the cave, the next one that always usually references massive storms is the libido card. It's like the power of something being totally unleashed. I'm trying to avoid the sun for you guys. So there's this surging energy, and it's a little bit showing up over here, which is a waterfall coming down. So the libido can be, again, massive storm surges that come in and inundate places, and especially where rivers are concerned, or dams, or things along those lines. But often this is intense rain that is just powering down and creating its own energy source, and it does create damage. We also see, oh, again, another reference to a snake here. So snakes traditionally talk to us about health, and the concept of the UN even has a snake wrapped around its mace stick. So there could be something big in here about health, or an awareness of something around health, even the United Nations or the WHO, or what has been going on with the virus type scenario. Maybe we finally get some answers. Maybe that comes to light. But this card can also reference animals, mass die-offs in particular. That's aside from its wild, surging, powerful, energetic connection it has. So it doesn't just have to be weather related. It could be quake related. It could be passion from people, you know, people being fired up, just completely wanting answers, or going somewhere, or doing something in mass groups, and there's this power and passion that surges through. And that could be why the sun is shining so brightly on the liberation card. The last thing about the peace card is, often in this reading, the way it's done, it doesn't mean peace, it means lack of peace. So there is a feeling for July that there may be a lack of peace on the globe. And I think as we move more into the 20s, with just the way things are opening up, whether it's personally or whether it's collectively, we aren't in stable times anymore. We're finding juxtapositions, we're finding people banging against each other, clashing against their belief systems, their understanding of where they feel they should be, or how they should be treated, or how someone else shouldn't be treated. Even though you feel as though it might be moving forward, it's creating tension, because what one group gets, another group has something taken from it. And that often doesn't lead to resolution, it leads to dissolution. It's just the nature of the way everything that has one side always has another, like one of the first cards that came out, the give and take in life. So to bring balance into give and take, and to create accord and harmony, to bring in peace, everything has to be done in an appropriate manner. And at the moment, I think we're moving too fast in the opposite way and tilting the scales slightly. So whether or not we see some balance coming back in July around rebalancing some of the perspectives and dynamics of things could be interesting. So I think really we have probably covered off with this crazy sun on the desk, just shining and vibrating and probably making us all a bit queasy. There's the messages for the month. Oh no, perhaps we haven't necessarily touched on the liar. So the liar can mean a global leader who is found to be lying. And he's right under this friendship card, and it's almost as if he is this person, this hidden agenda person holding the cup in here. It's almost as if it's a liar coming in, causing ructions and fracas and you know, there are untruths that have been told to us, that have been kept from us, that I hope come out, and maybe the liar is about to be found out. And right at the last minute, I've decided to hide that sun from the table because it was starting to really affect the reading. But in its own way, it was trying to get a message across, and it was very powerful within the reading, just as we'd seen 2 cards with the sun shining. So I'm hoping that the liar does produce a truth in this month of July. If it's not a truth, then there is someone still out there, perhaps a global leader, a politician, or perhaps someone within a monarchy or something along those lines, who is stringing us along still and is still getting away with the lies. Eventually they have to be caught. It's a matter of who manages to open that up. The liar can also represent shaking, quakes in particular, and it's houses, interestingly enough, so like residential homes or perhaps buildings where people live. I've sometimes seen this happen when we get quakes in the southern hemisphere, and sometimes even quakes in New Zealand when this liar card comes about. And they can be significant enough that they are a notifiable quake as such. They can be significant enough that they are like a notifiable quake that does actually bring attention to something or creates damage. The other one we haven't really addressed is the beauty up here. She is an odd one in many ways, but I have for a long time associated her with often someone who is well known, possibly royalty, possibly political people or movie stars, or, you know, someone along those lines. And often who lives in the northern hemisphere and sometimes the older parts, and often, interestingly enough, in and around England and sometimes even in London. Now she has some strange thing going on here with her body, and then this round bit which sometimes looks like a pregnant belly. But when she is looking in the window, she is also very discombobulated, fractured if you like. So oftentimes when this beauty comes out, there is something unusual about a specific person that will come to the light, and it's not normally in a good portrayal. Sometimes there is a death of someone who is prominent, and sometimes it's more like, oh my goodness, that's really bizarre or interesting news. There can be pregnancies announced or the birth of babies as well. So that's the general essence of the beauty. A real mixed bag, I think. The fact that I perhaps carried on drawing cards may have added to what I feel is a little bit of a confused message base. I think there's a lot more in here than we've possibly given the time for, and that may have shown itself up right from the very beginning when the Death and the Wheel of Fortune came out. As I say, they are very, very powerful cards. So it begs to think that July is going to be a very powerful month. And I know from the astrological messages I've heard, there are a lot of intense planetary alignments happening, a lot of retrogrades all at once, and we have just come through the 2 powerful eclipses as well. And of course eclipses also reference the sun. So whether or not the sun is trying to point out some of these ecliptical energies that will be hitting us all and manifesting these type of incidences to be investigated, and for change to come in, and for the death of old cycles to be propagated, something to ponder for us all. So I love it when you guys leave your comments, when you add your own ideas and interpretations to the cards that you see. It all goes towards the overall understanding of the deck and the energies that they put through. And bearing in mind too that, like everything, the cards can literally begin to offer more meanings or change their traditional format or meaning too. So have a wonderful July, everyone, and please sub the channel and like the video, because that helps to make sure that the videos can be seen. And remember to hit your notification button, because if you don't, My channel is definitely being hid. It's very difficult for my videos to be out and to be seen. So if you don't hit that notification button, you just won't see the stuff coming up that I'm working with. So thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful July. Be safe and be happy. Namaste.